The thing I remember most about the briefing is the clipboard. Captain Morse set it on the table in front of her. Supply run schedules, courier logs, a radio check rotation, and he did it the way a man sets down a plate of food for someone he's already dismissed. Flat. Final. He did not look at her when he did it. Vickers, he said, still reading from his own notes. You're on the courier rotation for the duration. Kessler Northgate to Firebase Arond, twice daily. Radio checks on the hour. Any questions? See Staff Sergeant Dole. She picked up the clipboard. Didn't speak, didn't look at him either. She was already reading the schedule, already turning pages. Behind me, somebody in the second row laughed. Quiet, the way men laugh in briefing rooms when they think they're invisible. Morse moved on to the ridge op without a pause. I tell you this because I was one of the 34 men in that room, and I said nothing. I want you to understand that before you hear the rest. Her name was Vickers, first name I never learned. She had been at FOB Kessler for 9 days when Morse handed her that clipboard, attached to our company as a support liaison, which meant in practice that nobody knew exactly who had sent her or why, and nobody asked. She drove well, she knew the radio protocols cold. She was quiet in a way that some men read as meekness and some men read as nothing at all. I read it as nothing at all. I have thought about that since. The ridge op was 3 days later, Kavar Ridge, Eastern Approach Lane, a kilometer of broken ground rising from the valley floor to a natural choke point the company needed to hold for 48 hours while the logistics element moved through below. 34 of us, standard loadout. I was second squad, left flank. My job was the base of the ridge approach, covering the valley floor if anything came up from the south. Something came up from the south. They hit us at hour 2. RPG first. It came in low and caught the edge of the supply cache we were using as cover, and I was on the wrong side of it. I remember the pressure, and then I was on my back looking at a gray sky, and my left leg was wrong in a way that I understood immediately and did not look at again. Dole was beside me in seconds. Around us, the company was finding cover, calling out contacts, 2 firing positions on the southern ridgeline, a third somewhere west. We had the valley floor, but the high ground was compromised, and we had nothing above us. Morse was on the radio, voice level, working the problem. Command was 20 minutes out for any air. The western contact was persistent. My leg was broken in 2 places. I learned later it was 3, and I was not going anywhere on my own. Here is what I know about the next 4 hours, assembled afterward from 6 different accounts. The after action, and one conversation I had with Chief Warrant Officer Edna Price at the Forward Medical Facility 2 weeks later. At hour 2 and 11 minutes, a single shot took out the western PKM position. Distance to target from the nearest concealed approach angle, 1,100 meters, 1 round. At hour 2 and 19 minutes, the 2 southern firing positions went quiet inside 90 seconds of each other. The company did not do that. Nobody in our element was positioned for that angle. At hour 2 and 22 minutes, a voice came over the net. Morse, this is Black Meridian. I have eyes on the eastern approach. 2 more elements moving up the draw, 150 meters. I need your second squad to rotate left 40 degrees and hold. Do not advance, acknowledge. Morse to his credit acknowledged. I heard it from my position, flat on my back, Dole keeping pressure on my leg, and I did not know the call sign. Nobody in my squad did. What followed was 4 hours of managed contact. She called each position before it materialized. She directed our fire twice from angles none of us could see. She took one firing position herself at hour 4, a single shot at what the after action measured as 930 meters through a 12-knot crosswind, and the pressure on our eastern flank stopped. At hour 6, the first medevac came in. Dole got me onto a stretcher. I was not entirely coherent, blood loss and pain medication, but I remember the flight medic, a staff sergeant named Rourke, leaning over me and doing a radio check with the ridge. I remember hearing the call sign come back through the static. Rourke sat up straight. He looked at the crew chief across the cabin and said the call sign again, not as a question. The crew chief nodded. Neither of them spoke after that. I didn't know what it meant. I filed it and let the medication pull me under. I found out at the medical facility. Price, Chief Warrant Officer Edna Price, the senior intelligence officer attached to our sector, came to see me on day 4 of my recovery. She sat in the chair beside my bunk, and she had a folder in her lap, but she didn't open it. She said, "You were in the valley." I said I was. She said, "She asked for anything? After?" I said I hadn't seen her after. Hadn't seen her at all. I'd been on my back or in the air the entire time. Price nodded. She set the folder on the foot of my bunk and left without taking it. I read it that night. 11 years of classified service. 3 theaters, 34 confirmed eliminations. The Kavar Ridge action was the 35th through 41st, an operation in the Western Corridor 2 years prior that I had heard of, but did not know had a single name attached to it. a commendation that ran 4 pages, stamped classified at every heading, that described a 40-hour solo interdiction in denied terrain that had preserved the lives of an entire advisory element I had trained alongside in 2019. The call sign was on the second page, Black Meridian. I was at Fabi Kessler for 3 more weeks before my leg was stable enough to transfer. I was in a wheelchair for most of it. The day before my transfer, I was in the compound yard. Dole had pushed me out to get some air, and he'd left me there while he went to find coffee. When Captain Morse came out of the command building, he walked across the yard, not toward the motor pool, not toward the north gate, toward the supply office, which was a converted shipping container at the east wall that she used as a workspace when she wasn't on the Courier run. She was there when he arrived. I could see her through the open door, sitting at the field desk, writing something. He stopped in the doorway. He said something I could not hear. She looked up. Then Aldrich Morse, 11 years in, 2 combat deployments, a man I had never seen break postures or in a briefing room, came to attention in the doorway of a shipping container and rendered a full 4-count salute. Behind me, I heard boots. The 2 soldiers by the motor pool who had been talking had stopped. The gate crew, Dole, coming back with the coffee, who had also stopped. Nobody said anything. Nobody had been told to come to attention. It just happened, the way some things happen when a yard full of soldiers suddenly understands what it is looking at. She returned the salute. 4 counts, level and clean. Then she went back to what she was writing. Morse walked back across the compound without speaking to anyone. I have been physical therapy for 6 months. The leg is functional now, will be fully weight-bearing by spring, they tell me. Rourke, the flight medic, looked me up 2 months ago through a mutual contact and sent me a message. He'd looked up the Kavar Ridge action after that flight, that he'd wanted to know who the call sign belonged to, and that when he found out, he sat at his kitchen table for a long time. I told him I understood. I have thought since about the briefing room, the clipboard flat on the table, the way she picked it up without a word. I did not know then what she was. I did not ask. I did not think to ask. She completed the Courier runs every day of that operation, both of them twice daily, North Gate to Firebase Aaron and back. The schedule Morse had written on that clipboard. She ran the routes on time, logged every check-in, turned in the paperwork, and then she went up the ridge in the dark and she held it. I keep the after action on the left side of my nightstand, under a paperback I keep meaning to read. Some nights I think about those 34 men walking out of the valley, Dole and Morrison, and the 2 kids from 3rd Squad who had been in country 6 weeks, and I think about the Courier schedule and the clipboard and the woman who took both without comment and did not let us die. That is all the explanation I have. I do not believe it needs more than that.